Hi, I'm Rachel Oigster with Ottawa Tonight. I'm here at Collected Works Bookstore and Coffee Shop talking to Rachna Gilmore, author, and Ben Hodson, illustrator, who are two of the featured guests at a party on October 14, a celebration of children's books, which will take place here at Collected Works. And Rachna and Ben will be among the people presenting their newest work. So come celebrate children's books. So, can you tell us a little bit about the organization that's hosting the event?
It's SCBWI, which stands for Society of Children's Writers,
Book writers.
Book writers
And illustrators.
and illustrators. Clearly, I shouldn't have
The
known what to
Society of
start
Children's Book Writers and Illustrators.
Yes. And it's an international organization, mostly based in the US, but it is international, supporting and encouraging training and in writing and illustrating. And it's a wonderful organization in that the conferences that they have include all kinds of industry professionals. So you have a chance not only to meet with other writers and illustrators, but also with publishers and publicists and agents. So you learn more about your craft and your art, but you also learn about the business. But best of all, you get to meet with other professionals who are creating.
Perfect. So the Friday night celebration of children's books here at Collected Works begins a weekend conference. So what can people expect to find here in the bookstore on the Friday night?
Well, I think there'll be a nice collection of writers and illustrators, and we're all going to do presentations of our books, and I think there's going to be a lot of chatting and probably refreshments, and and I think just a nice evening to spend. You bring the kids and parents and grandparents, and everybody's welcome, and just be a nice time of seeing the people behind the books, because you rarely do get to see the usually you see the covers, but you don't get to see all the work that goes on or hear the stories and all the interesting things and the different personalities. It's usually an interesting bunch of folks, so it should be a fun evening.
It's also a chance to hear the writers and illustrators read from their own books and talk about their own books. So that's not something you get to see when you browse through a bookstore. So it'll be fun, and of course you have a chance to grab them on the side and ask them your questions, your burning questions, should you have any, which you don't get the chance to do when you're thumbing through a book at a bookstore. So yeah, please come out. It'll be a fun time.
And here we see some of the books that the two of you have recently created. Rachna, I think your most recent ones are That Boy Red and the Flute. Mm-hmm. And Ben, I think your newest is Richard Was a Picker, but we've got Geoffrey and Sloth on the shelf as well.
That's right, yeah.
So these are some of the books that will be presented on that evening. Now, that Friday party, a celebration of children's books, I understand is a kickoff to a conference that SCBWI is having here in Ottawa that is open to any adult who's interested in publishing who pre-registers. Can you tell us a little about what happens at a conference, why these are important events, and what somebody new to children's publishing might find if they attended?
Well, I think it's valuable not just for somebody who's new to children's publishing, but also for established industry professionals. I hate to use that word established because, people look at me and say, okay, you've got all these books, you have to be established, but you never feel like you are, because if you don't come to it with an attitude of learning, you kind of get stagnant. So it's a wonderful opportunity to meet with people who are going to talk about the art and craft of writing. So I think there's somebody going to be talking about fantasy. There's going to be a publisher there. There are agents. But I think what's also really exciting about these conferences is the collective energy. I always come away feeling charged because there's such a buzz, not only from the presentations I go to, but there's such a charge and buzz from all that creative collective energy. You exchange information. We tend to be very generous, I find, in the children's industry. Very generous sharing information.
Oh yeah.
And it is meeting with other people is not something that happens in the ordinary course of your work when you're...
No, absolutely not. No, and meeting, just there's a lot of commiseration involved, but there's also you just help each other out, and then because it can be pretty elaborate, the submission process and just getting to see editors and getting into publishers, and it can also be daunting and a bit frustrating. So it's great to have this support network of people who have been there and know what have been doing it a long time, and just have different ideas to get you through, because I think everybody has a book inside that they feel that they want to get out there, but it's how do you actually get out there and get it on the shelf, and that can be really challenging, especially if you're somewhat creatively minded and not a business. The business isn't the strong point. It's great to have this community to help you out with that.
It's interesting to hear you say you think everyone has a book inside them, because I think probably if you stopped anyone on the street, they would say, yes, I do. But to hear somebody who has actually published books say that is interesting. So you would subscribe to that belief.
Definitely, yeah. I don't think that there's any. Obviously, some people come to writing and doing art from an early age, and they just follow that all the way through. But I think there's a lot of examples of people who come to this later in life, or just from a totally different background, but they have really interesting narratives and ideas and different things to share. So I think it's great to have all kinds of perspectives, because it really broadens it.
Yeah, and I think, the other thing that's really crucial about having a conference like this is that our work is so solitary. We're very isolated. So to get together, not only to exchange information, but it is valuable, but also to meet with other writers and illustrators and basically swap stories about which publishers are doing what, because there's power in the knowledge that we gain through this.
Right.
Yeah, I also find it's actually a occupation of extremes. You're either working away, slaving away in your studio or office, or you're out marketing your book, and you're totally exposed. So it's kind of, the conference is a nice kind of middle ground where you're meeting people, but you're not trying to necessarily sell anything. You're not trying to be on promoting, but you can be yourself, and you're also learning about things that you're excited about. So
Right. Okay, so the one thing we haven't talked about yet, is connecting with the readership. So far we've talked about connecting with colleagues and the solitary pursuit of the craft itself. But what about the children? Since we're talking about children's books, how and when do we connect with them? And how do you know that there's somebody out there on the receiving end of what you've created?
Well, we connect with them, of course, when we get letters back, but also through readings in schools and in libraries, and that's always really exciting. It's what Ben said. It's an industry of kind of extremes, because there you are working alone in your computer, at your computer all by yourself, completely isolated. Well, not isolated, because you've got the world inside you, and that's a compelling world. It has to be if you're going to be living with it and writing about it for a while.
Right.
But you are essentially by yourself, and then suddenly you're out in schools and in libraries, and you're talking to kids and meeting with large groups. It's quite interesting. I find it takes a different kind of energy. I love it, but it takes a very different kind of energy from what it takes to create a book.
Right.
get to be a rock star for a day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Without the spandex pants.
You could probably do the spandex pants if
The
you
kids would
wanted
like it.
to.
The kids
The
would
kids
like
would
it,
probably
yeah.
like it. That's right.
Teachers maybe not so much.
So we should have guitars when we do it.
Well, maybe we can
least some
bring some to
backup
the party
singers.
on the Friday night.
Yeah, there you go.